Hi everyone! Today I'll be showing you how to design a Ford-sponsored late model out of basic shapes in the World of Outlaws dirt racing game. Don't forget to stay tuned to see how I've ranked this design, and I'll also be giving a little hint as to what you can expect from my next video. It's something I've never done before. And lastly, make sure you put down in the comments what you'd like to see in my future videos. Now let's get started. With the Ford logo being a fairly complex script font, we'll be using 16 shapes and roughly 10 sponsors, depending on your personal preference. You could use more or less sponsors depending on your design and placement, as well as the car you decide to put the logo on. For example, the logo on the front of this late model is a slightly different combination of sponsors and shapes than what you'll see in the tutorial, but with some minor adjusting, the overall layout is generally the same. To start, we'll be creating the full badge logo here. As you can see, I've already placed the ovals where I want the logo to go. Because we're trying to fit the text within these ovals, the last thing we want is to run out of room and have to move or redo our work. To help prevent this, I'm going to place two rectangles as guides, marking the X and Y axis as center point of the ovals. Now that I have our guides in place, I'll begin with the vertical of the letter R in Ford. To save on shapes, I'm going to use sponsors here. I've allocated 3 sponsors for this one vertical to make sure it's bold enough. I then like to move on to the D and then to the O. Pay close attention to the angle of the shapes being placed here. The Ford logo has a steep angled italic to it, which, when paired with the script font, gives it that all-important feel of speed and movement. Once those are in place, I begin building the iconic F in Ford. This is my favorite part. After placing the 2 bottom ovals, we can delete those guides as we no longer need them, but we do need the 2 shapes for the top of the F as you see here. Once those are in place, we'll place 2 more monster sponsors as the crossbar to the F, completing the look of the Ford logo. Now that all of the shapes are in place, I'll do some fine tuning and get everything just the way I want it for this version of the logo. That's right, with the Ford logo, you also have the option to go with just the script font and no ovals. Before we do that, here's a quick tip. If you'd like to try something out with your design but don't want to risk messing up or losing what you currently have, just hit back on your controller until you get the save prompt. Save your progress and then exit back to the main menu, and then just open the editor back up. If you make changes and decide to go back to what you had before, just exit back to the main menu, but this time without saving. Then when you return, you'll be back to where you last saved. Okay, now if we delete the ovals here, that gives us 2 more shapes to add back into the logo. I'd recommend doing the swirl in the crossbar of the F. With a little detailing, I placed the 2 shapes, tying them in with the 2 monster sponsors to complete the look of that iconic swirl. I'll do some more reworking, and finally, there you have it, a Ford-sponsored late model done with basic shapes on the World of Outlaws dirt racing game. You can design this logo on the late models, the UMP modified, and any of the sprint cars in the game. It might take a few adjustments to get it to your liking, but let's take a look at some shape maps to get you started. As I've mentioned in the past, there's a lot going on with these logos when looking at them up close, but I placed a duplicate in the top right corner to show you how everything is simplified when viewing it from a distance, like on the track. To build this logo, here's the shape map. Feel free to pause here or take a screenshot to have as a reference while you're working. If you'd like to do the script logo without the oval around the text, just make a few minor adjustments to the sponsors on the crossbar of the F and place 2 ovals right above the O. The rest is exactly the same. Lastly, here's a shape map if you're planning on putting the Ford script logo on a sprint car. Note that the logo with the ovals is possible, but I don't recommend it since the placement isn't ideal on the sprints. For your reference, the red dashed line marks the boundary between the front and back locations on the car. That brings me to my final tip of this tutorial. Make sure you're planning out your designs before you create them. Count out the shapes and sponsors on the shape map, or even create a shape map of your own. Whenever I create a design, I always know exactly what shapes and how many will be placed to create it. This will help speed things up so you can get back on the track. Now for the difficulty rating of this tutorial, 1 star being very easy and 5 stars being very difficult. Using the guides I showed you in this tutorial, I rate this 4 out of 5 stars. If you learned something new or enjoyed this content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and notification bell below to help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. Speaking of content, make sure to check out my next video. It'll help you with all of your future car designs, so you don't want to miss it. Until next time, bye.